everybody. My name is Courtney Perry, and first and foremost, I'm a precinct chair, 415 in South Central Austin, and I'm part of the South Central Chapter of Blue Action. And I also work part-time as a regional organizer for Texas Blue Action. So I support the chapters with the work that they need to do. Although what ends up happening is they ended up teaching me how I can support them. So because before this, I was a public school teacher and just got fed up in 2020 and decided I was going to do something in politics. So I learned a lot from Southwest. So thank you to you all who you set the bar really high. So we appreciate it. And I also want to say shout out to ACC because I'm a proud ACC veteran. I went there before my undergrad, and I actually went there this summer to take a stats class before I started. I'm also in graduate school right now for School of Social Work. So anyway, so I'm just going to do a quick MiniVan training. And since we have only a few people in the room, can I just get a read on where we are with MiniVan? Like, how many of you have block walked before? Okay, how many of you plan to block walk in this cycle? Okay, who feels like they need me to give a quick refresher in terms of going in depth? Like, do we need 5 minutes? Do we need 10? Yeah, never used it? Okay, so let's start with, we'll shoot for 5 or 10, see how everybody's doing. And then if you're a veteran of it, feel free to reach out to people sitting near you. But first thing is, when you came in, is it Nita? Nita. So Nita asked you if you have MiniVan on your phone. I think most people do. So the first thing let's just pull it up. And what I did is I brought you a turf from my precinct. It's actually on my street. So I'm going to give you the list number. So give me a thumbs up when you have it pulled up. And if you haven't gotten MiniVan on your phone yet, if you need to scan something, I have it right here. Okay, so give me a thumbs up if you have it on your phone. Okay, I'm going to read off the list number. So it's there. You have to put in 2 sets of numbers, so make sure you move over when you're putting in after the dash. Okay, here we go. So it's 401-859-23, and then you tab over. That's the way it works in Android. And the next 5 digits are 10397.
Can you say it again?
I will. Okay, so starts with 401-859-23, and then tab over 10397. This will be the first test. If you're getting an error message, it's because I've left out a digit or I've added too many digits.
No, it worked.
It worked. Good. Okay, so you're probably asking something like, are you doing a lid drop? Something like that. What's that first screen say?
Please canvas safely.
Please canvas safely. It'll probably be mentioned about wearing a mask. That's a personal decision at this point. So go ahead and click through that. I'm not giving too much specific information because how it looks on an iPhone is different than it looks on Android, so I don't want to confuse you. Okay, so get to the next screen. It probably says, are you doing a lid drop? Okay, so click that yes. So those of you who walked in 2020, the big difference is we are not just lid dropping. We are knocking and talking. It'll be very important because things like the ACC bond, right? Like Elisa said about helping people who drop off in voting to help them understand the importance of voting at a time like the midterms. So anyway, we are doing a knock and talk. All right, so then you're going to get to a screen where you see, I think you're going to see half a map, and then you're going to see some details below. So play around with real quick. Right below the map, you're going to see a half line in the middle of the screen. Pull the half line down. Do you see how that makes the map bigger? Okay, so that way you'll know how to navigate in between looking at the map and looking at more of the words. So then, try to pull it back up. Make sure you're going to see at the very top, you're going to see the list number, and then you see the map. Then do you see where it says household and people? This is either awesome or really sad that I can see this in my brain. Okay, so I try to stay on household because I find it to be the most effective for when I'm actually walking. So when you're on households, you see it listed by street name. So that way, because MiniVan doesn't know where you're starting. So again, this turf right here is my street, so you're seeing Morgan Lane. Do you see that? Okay, so here's a reason why you might want to go to people. Maybe you're looking for someone, right? Maybe you met somebody recently and you want to check back in with them. And you can see if they're on this list. Another way I found people is that sometimes when I go through, I'm knocking on doors, I'm doing my thing, I'm syncing. That's another part I want to show right now. Right, just to the side, no, at the very top right corner, there's a cloud. Okay, make sure you sync often as you walk. I try to sync after every door. It's not necessary, but get into the habit. Just remember that you want to sync often. And often I get the question, what's it syncing? Well, it's syncing with the cloud, but it's syncing with Van. The gentleman that cuts turf for your chapter, Joseph, all that work that he does when he cuts the turf or when precinct chairs cut the turf, all that is syncing together. And then there's another big sync that happens on the backside where we commit the data. So you committing it to the cloud helps us to then commit it later. And that's how Beto gets, he sees what we've done as we've block walked. So the syncing is very important. As a matter of fact, at the very end, this is an update. MiniVan will not let you leave. Basically, it's going to be like, you have not synced, you have not synced. And if you try to download another list number, it's going to say, it actually gives you a kind of a wonky message. But if you know you've synced it all and it's still giving you this message, I would just contact Elisa or somebody, contact the person you got the turf from. Something's a little bit weird because we need to know when things are behaving incorrectly in MiniVan. Okay, so back to where I was. So, back to people. Here's the reason I go to people is that sometimes I get to the end of my list and it's telling me you're not done. And I'm like, I am done. I had all these doors, but what it is add a door. There were 2 names. And I just forgot to go to that second name and say, I dropped the lid. I asked the questions. And you can see that best when you go to people. Because it'll highlight, not highlight, but it'll be the one that looks different. But in general, I stay on household, but that's a personal preference. Okay, so then now let's interact a little bit. How are we doing? First of all, I'm gonna redo the room. Everybody okay? Okie dokie. Yes, please, always stop.
What is this populated with? Like these houses, like every house in Austin?
Oh, great question. Okay, that's a great question. So what we've done on the backside is, do you remember earlier when Diana or Elisa was talking about how we go in and we pick these targets, the people we want to talk to? So the coordination that Diana with TCDP was talking about is how we've chosen the people that we want to talk to. So all the people that have a voice and want this to be successful, they've come to the table and they've said, this is what's important. And please, any of the people that know better than I, correct me if I'm wrong. So the county party, in coordination with Beto and other statewide, they chose that we would talk to people that are our base Democrats, people that are reliable Democrats. And then the second one would be people that are infrequent voters. We know that they have demonstrated democratic values, but they're infrequent voters. And then the third one is people that are newly registered. And that's actually a question I have. I'll ask Diana this because I can just check this off my list. Diana, so the newly registered is, how do we know that they've shown democratic values and that we're not knocking on Republican people?
Right, so we're looking at people who may have been newly registered, whether it was right after, I believe you had an ordinance issue, the city a while back. I had worked with Joe on it.
Okay.
So they may have been newly registered, may have voted in that election. And also, we looked at people who were newly registered and may have voted in a primary. And also, what I've taken into consideration is in Travis County, there's so many voter registration initiatives. If I just look in Blue Action alone and all the doors that you guys have knocked, I have to include at least some of those people somehow. Even though I may not see a voting history per se, but because they've been registered around this time, I'm assuming that it's because of one of our various initiatives. It's not just Blue Action. There's several other individuals, several other organizations, whether it's MOVE, TCDP, any other partner groups, Organized Project, anyone. We're thinking because of all of the decisions, especially when road dropped,
Yeah,
that especially those women may be a little upset and they got registered.
right, because we've seen registration with women going way up. That's a great question. It always gets asked, and I always forget to include in my presentation, so I'm going to make sure I write that down. And then to finish that point, so the other thing that happened in coordination with the party and with Blue Action is that, especially in Southwest, you want to hit the doors of people you've hit before, like the deep, deep Democrats. And one of the reasons we do that as a Blue Action group is because we have the volunteer capacity that maybe the party might not have, right? So, but we want to create that culture of voting, and we want them to. Michelle taught me this. We want to train people that we're going to come to you with a piece of literature and let you know that we're always going to come to you, and it deepens that culture of voting. So, but to answer it also simply, we really try to not hit Republicans. Blue Action, and really the party is not in the persuasion game. The persuasion is left to the candidates, right?
Yes.
Man, I've learned so much. You should have heard me in January. I don't know. I just told me to make the Zoom. No, I mean, it's a little better. I was like, Carrie, would you please come to my first Zoom and make sure I'm saying it right? Anyway, yeah, so great question. Please don't hesitate to ask questions. Okay, so now let's interact with the map a little bit. So get yourself comfortable on your screen and touch one of the white dots. Those dots change colors as you walk. But touch one of the white dots, and this is one of my little mini complaints, is you have to touch it several times. So touch the dot, and then it shows you something. I think it shows you an address, right? Okay, touch the address. Now touch the person. Okay, when you get to the person, that's where you really want to be. So now you know who you're going to. And I want to tell you that right across the top, you're going to see details. The first one is script. Thank you, script. The next tab is details. Click on details. It gives you a little information. Actually, this is so brilliant, Elisa, because so many questions I have people in the room that can answer them. Okay, so if you click on details, scroll to the part where it talks about early voting. It's wrong.
Oh.
How does it get fixed?
Well, it's because it still has the primary information in there.
So I don't think we have
Great.
it set, but
Still
it's
has
still
early
a
voting.
TDP thing.
Okay,
It's been wrong for a while.
yeah.
It's TDP.
And I've tried to do what I can to
We
make,
can't do anything on our.
okay, so I just alert TDP when that happens?
Yeah, I'm gonna flag them right now.
Or, okay, great. Happy about that? Okay, all right, so you see that in detail, so please know until that gets fixed, that's the wrong information. It's
Austin
really,
Oaks Church.
Austin Oaks Church is this area's early voting. And the early voting dates, October 24th through November 4th. Yes?
It's on the lip we are distributing
Yes.
as we're handing it out.
It is not.
Oh, it is
Yeah.
The lip has been standardized for Travis County, so it says vote Travis.
Yeah.
Sorry.
We're just going to say thank you to Southwest for doing that, because we're starting to see more collaboration amongst the chapters, and it just made it more simple to print the front page to just be more general about where to find out where you early vote. So anyway, in theory, that will be updated soon, where in details it'll say that. The other thing you can see is you can see their voting history. If you see a bunch of R's, you might not want to knock on that door, but that will be rare for turfs that have been cut by, turf is what you're looking at, by the way, I'm sorry to use the lingo, but for doors that you've been told to go to, that will be rare coming from Blue Action, but you can see it. The other thing is, if you get to a door and somebody's really engaged with you, you can update their email and their phone number on that details tab. It's pretty easy to interact with it. Okay, and then there's a notes section. The notes section, I use it, but I know that I use it in my precinct, and what I like is if someone, as a precinct chair, if they put something in the notes section, I like them to let me know, because in VAN, the big database, it's hard to find the notes. They don't just appear. I can't just go to it and say, I'm a precinct chair, tell me what notes have been made. You have to know to look for it. So you can use it But if you're gonna use the notes section, let your precinct chair know, or whoever you got your turfs from, let them know. A reason to use notes is, anybody throw an idea, but one thing I'm thinking about is
Last
that,
week I went
Yeah.
on these country roads, and a lot of them have a lot of brush and stuff like that you can't get to the front door, or the door's on the side and that. So there was notes already, but then there were some houses that I did get to, and the houses were way back. Like you had to go on this driveway and that. So that was the notes that I was inputting to tell them. You'll have to drive into there's a lot of brush, just drive to the driveway, and they did answer the door.
okay,
And that is an older gentleman, so you could see that he had a hearing aid or something. I put
yes,
those notes so they would know things
Great
like that it might take a while for them to even get to the door.
right,
So-
good enough. And did you just say that you can see old notes?
Yes, there was
Okay.
older
Yeah,
notes that,
Yeah.
and they, some of those houses just look like because they were out on this country road and that, in the city,
Mhm.
and a lot of them had a whole bunch of brush and stuff like that too.
Okay.
To drive, so it was nice to see the old notes and then, tell them, yeah, that there is someone living there now, or, and then they have hard
Right.
hearing and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Just
great.
to give notes, for other people in the future.
Yesterday, I did one of my turfs. It was an apartment complex, and some of the apartments that they didn't have, it was insufficient. Like it was supposed to be like 101A, and it just said like A, or and it had like 37, which there was no such apartment. So
And you added that in your notes
I added
section?
that
Yeah.
in the section.
Yeah, so anything at all, it's just helpful to let someone know if you've done that. I also I like to say at this point, safety is, it's a priority. If you get to a door that I call it the spidey sense, if your spidey sense goes off and you don't want to knock that door, that's another good reason you could put in notes. Because as precinct chairs, sometimes we give a turf and we forget to say, oh, these two houses right here, you have to go all the way back behind the building, and if you're by yourself, maybe don't go back there. So we trust you to trust your instincts about all this stuff, but putting in a note will help us. Big scary dog, that kind of thing, that can be good. Okay, so let's go back to script. And I don't want to go too far into that because we have Joe Casino with the Democratic Travis County Party taught me how to do a branch script for the first time. Woo! But what that means is, depending on how people answer, it will branch to where it goes in the script. And so right now you can't see all the questions. So I don't want you to get confused. So I just want to talk a little bit about the script was written in coordination of all the chapters. So the script, again, is one of those standardized things now. We give you the script, we write the script in terms of people who are brand new block walkers, because sometimes they don't know what to say. But if you're a veteran block walker and you feel really good about your spiel, give your spiel. But just remember that there are questions in there, and all those questions we need you to get answered. And your spiel will work with the way it's branched. Here's a branch example. The first question about Beto, it's the one you can see. Will you vote for Beto? If they say something like, heck no, he's gonna take away my guns, and you hit no, it's gonna branch you to, thank you so much. I'll see you later, right? It's just gonna stop you. And I'm gonna say this for Carrie and Michelle and Diana, I branched it just like Joe. I didn't.
Yeah.
I branched it just like Joe. So anyway, there are 3 questions. That one, again, this shows the coordination. Beto wanted that question in there. We put it first because we wanted the script next to say, great, you're gonna vote for Beto, woohoo! But here's the reason why we need you to also vote for Rochelle Garza for Attorney General, right? And so we put some of that information in there. And then after you talk to them about the issues and how Rochelle Garza can make a difference, or how Jake Clayburgh can, we also give a little cheat sheet for all that, by the way. Because again, I'm a teacher. I want to assume, I need to modify, right? For all the different levels of learning and experience. So we created a little cheat sheet for that. So anyway, you've had that conversation about the down ballot candidates, and then you say, okay, can we count on you to support Democrats all the way down the ballot? And then you answer that question. And then depending on how you answer it, it branches. And then the last question, you end asking if they want to volunteer. And that is something, for instance, that might not happen at the county level during this, right? I can't remember right now. But in Blue Action, we always want to ask that question, will you volunteer? Because we're trying to build that voter base. And then Carrie's going to talk to you in just a minute about using reach. And Lisa said earlier that she uses reach when she block walks. That's a lot for a new block walker. We understand that. So if all you do is interact with MiniVan while you're block walking, great. If you use MiniVan and then later you go home and use reach, that's what I do, because I just have too much stuff in my hands. I write down, like, add this person to reach. Or if you don't do, well, I'm not going to say that in front of Carrie. Carrie'd be like, you will do reach. Anyway, so there is a little blurb in the script about using reach. You could always just say, will you volunteer, and answer it and say, thank you so much for your time. Because we want it to be a comfortable conversation at the door. So I didn't cover much about block walking best practices, but again, I will. If you come to my Zoom trainings, I'll also hang around afterwards if you have any questions. Did I do it too fast, or do you have more?
I've got a quick question.
Yeah.
So what if they say, because I've had this with some people, said, well, I may not vote for Beto, but I'm going to vote for Mike and Rochelle and everybody else.
I would put them as lean dim,
Lead support.
lean dim, and put something in the notes.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think Lean Dem takes you to the second question about will you vote all the way down the ballot?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good question.
We've got a lot of turners going from R to D, but not telling anybody.
Yeah.
Well, and we're not. Those aren't going to show up on our list,
I know.
right? So
I know.
that's where reach comes in handy,
Right.
and that will be Carrie's part.
Because it might be
Okay,
the
well,
only
let's
time
get
that they
some
go.
way.
All right.
It might be
Again, I'm
the
here
only
for
time
you
this one.
in lots of different ways.
And usually, like, if you do a buddy thing with two walkers, Tina and I ran reach, she ran minivan, and boy, did we identify what was going on behind the doors, especially when the mean man showed up. But his wife was a Democrat. We
That
have
happens a lot.
to him.
Great point. Yeah, and I look forward to hearing how it's going with people who are having different experiences, how I can use reach more easily. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it.